Please rewind this cassette.
I think when most people think of 80s teen flicks, they typically go to the John Hughes stuff or maybe some of the Cameron Crowe stuff like Fast Times at Ridgemont High or Say Anything. But oddly enough, a film that nowadays feels completely overlooked is Valley Girl, which was inspired by the Frank Zappa and Mune Unit Zappa song Valley Girl, which is honestly one of my favorite songs of all time, and the soundtrack to this movie is absolutely kick-ass. Valley Girl, which was directed by the great Martha Coolidge, a very underrated female filmmaker who also did Real Genius, another 80s classic that is overlooked today. You know, I love when people always say that there's not enough female filmmakers or writers, and it's just usually people that are saying this or people that don't know anything about movies. You never hear these people bring up anyone like Julie Taymor or Catherine Bigelow or Martha Coolidge, for example. It's like they don't exist. The film follows Deborah Foreman as Julie Richmond, a local valley girl who's hanging out with her friends and is in love with her jock boyfriend Tommy, who's a complete and utter asshole. But one day at the beach, she meets Randy, a name that you don't hear often enough in movies. I really like the name Randy. Can we get more characters with that name, played by Nicolas Cage, who looks exactly like David Schwimmer in this movie? Seriously, why is Ross in this movie?
Pivot! Pivot!
Valley Girl was made on a budget of $350,000 and grossed $17.3 million at the box office, so it was a modest success, and it also got pretty good reviews from critics. I'll say this about the movie. The first half of it, and the movie itself is sort of a retelling of Romeo and Juliet. The first half is absolutely terrific, and as good as any John Hughes film in my opinion. I mean with the classics like 16 Candles, Breakfast Club, Ferris Bueller, what have you. Unfortunately, in the second half of Valley Girl, a really weird subplot kicks in where Julie's friends try to convince her that Randy's bad for her and she needs to date Tommy, even though one of her friends had sex with Tommy at a party and doesn't tell her about it. So then this whole drama unfolds where she breaks up with Randy for no real reason. It's very confusing, it's convoluted, and then the movie just turns into Randy trying to win Julie back over as she dates Tommy again. I don't like the second half of the movie. I think it's pretty poorly written. So my recommendation comes with that caveat that the first 45 minutes is terrific, and then the movie drops off, and then it picks up again somewhere near the end. But I'm going to be focusing mainly on the first hour. What I like about this movie: the performances. Deborah Foreman and Nicolas Cage are absolutely terrific. This is like an early, great, weird Nick Cage performance. I really like the soundtrack. Like I said, the music is terrific. This has some of my favorite songs of the 80s. There's a standout sequence where Randy's character hides in the shower in a bathroom during a party waiting for Julie to come in, and there's this fun montage of people exiting and coming into the bathroom. And then when Julie finally enters, Randy approaches her and has one of the sexiest, most intimate, romantic scenes I've seen in any teen flick. In fact, I love this sequence so much that I ripped it off for my own movie. And I wasn't even aware of it at the time. I subconsciously was doing it, but I didn't realize that this dialogue was used in this movie. I just thought I was really clever. And it turns out it was probably one of the best scenes in the movie I made, too.
We could get out of here.
Hey, are you gonna be alright?
Do you want to go somewhere?
Wait a minute, where are we gonna go?
I don't care.
Where do you want to go?
I don't care.
What are we gonna do?
There's homages to The Graduate. There's a sort of a look at class here, that Randy comes from the rougher part of town and she comes from a higher class in society, and the detachment from these two sides trying to come together, which of course is from Romeo and Juliet. The film's also really fascinating in the way that it uses language. The girls speak in that Valley Girl talk, like, as if, like totally, like he's gnarly, like bitchin'.
You know,
like he's got the bod, but his brains are bad news.
But he is bitch.
This would also be used in Clueless, which is also a Shakespeare retelling and uses language in a very specific way. I would say that Clueless is much more successful as a satire and as an overall movie than Valley Girl, but the DNA of Valley Girl is definitely in Clueless, and Clueless ended up becoming the bigger hit years later. The ultimate message of the movie, though, which is sort of translated from Julie's parents, who are old hippies who are trying to let their daughter have a free life without being overbearing and stuff, sort of like the parents in the movie Easy A, is that you have to accept people for who they are. You have to love someone their way for what they are on the inside and not care what other people think. You know, that's why Julie's friends telling her that she needs to get back with Tommy is really the whole thematic point of the movie. They say that Randy's a loser just because he's different, because he goes to hardcore punk clubs and he doesn't want to spend all of his times at parties. He even tells Julie that you're fucking brainwashed. And at the end of the movie, that's what it's all about. Let's just melt with each other at the end of the world. I really like that message. I like that it's about the acceptance of others, which I guess is an important message today, as everything is about how we're different nowadays. There seems to be nothing that unites us anymore. But it's a sweet love story, and it is about looking at the person within and not giving a crap about stereotypes or how people talk or how they dress. I mean, if you're attracted to somebody and you like spending time with them, then spend time with them. And typically in life, you find out that when everyone's telling you to not be with someone or to not do something, it's usually because they're projecting their own insecurities and fears onto you. And then you end up being happy with that person and realizing that maybe you didn't need those friends in your life. Maybe even the family members in your life were an issue. I really like her parents. They're very funny. I really like Randy's best friend, who is great in every scene that he's in. I like the cars in this movie. I like the cinematography to this movie. I like the locations. I love all the club scenes. There's definitely something gritty about this movie that isn't in a lot of the other teen films at the time. There's something like an exploitation element to this film, and I think the low budget benefits the movie. But overall, I think what really makes it stand out is that it taps into female sexuality, which I don't think is explored enough in teen films. I feel like Julie's wanting of Randy and her yearning and the look on her face is really elevated by the direction of Coolidge. I think having a female director really does add something to this. And I think for young girls, this would be a great starter film for them to get into, you know, the YA genre, because it's really from the female's perspective for a lot of it. And you just don't get that with enough teen flicks. It's usually about the guys partying and girls getting naked, and there are boobs in this movie, and there are the asshole stereotypical characters that I never really meet in real life, but they always seem to be in movies. At the end of the day, though, it's really a unique film. There's really nothing I can compare it to wholly, and I know that Quentin Tarantino is a big fan of it, and it was a big deal for him when it came out. In particular, the song Valley Girl with Frank and Moon Unit Zappa, what a ridiculous name, it is really an innovative piece of music and songwriting. And I know that Zappa wanted to make the Valley Girl thing, and then he tried to sue the studio over the production of the film, claiming it infringed on his trademark, but it was unsuccessful. There's a lot of clever cues to the class differences in this movie, both in its visual presentation and in dialogue. Still, though, if you like movies like this, and maybe you just haven't seen Valley Girl, or you've just heard about it, or maybe your mom talked about it and you don't really want to watch it, I'd say give it a chance. There was a remake that was originally made, I think, in 2016 or 2017. They didn't release the film in 2018 because of the Logan Paul controversy. I have to say, though, even though everyone hates Logan Paul, I think he's perfectly cast as an 80s asshole character. He totally reminds me of the guy from The Karate Kid. So I never really saw the remake of Valley Girl. I saw the trailer on the internet. It's a musical version of the story, but it didn't actually look that bad. I mean, I'm not going to pay to watch the damn thing, but if it showed up on Netflix or something, I would certainly give it a watch. Anyway, that's all I really have to say about it. Not too much thematic stuff to break down here, not too many scenes to go into, but it's certainly a movie upon rewatch, which I watched it maybe about a month ago, that I was pleasantly surprised how good it still was. I hadn't seen it in a long time. You know, like, totally awesome. So I totally recommend it, okay?
Papers! Shut up! Shut up!